Real grief is rarely so organized. It lingers. It settles into the corners of our lives. It shows up in ways we don't expect, in sudden anger, in unexplained fatigue, in an inability to concentrate, or in moments of quiet numbness where nothing feels real. This lingering presence is what I call the silent weight of unprocessed grief, and it is one of the heaviest burdens a person can carry. We often think of grief only in relation to death, but it takes many forms. A broken relationship, a betrayal, the loss of health, the end of a dream, even moving away from a beloved home. Each of these can create grief. When we fail to acknowledge these losses, when we dismiss them as not serious enough, they don't disappear. They become an invisible wound that shapes the way we see ourselves, others, and the world. The difficulty with unprocessed grief is that it hides. You may think you're fine because you're functioning, going to work, caring for your family, fulfilling obligations, but beneath the surface, the mind and body are carrying a constant, unresolved tension. Grief that isn't expressed has a way of hardening inside of us. It can manifest as chronic stress, anxiety, irritability, or even physical illness. You may not connect these symptoms to the grief because time has passed, but the body remembers what the mind tries to avoid. One of the most powerful ways to begin processing grief is simply to name it, to give yourself permission to say, yes, I lost something that mattered to me, and it hurts. That naming, as simple as it sounds, is often the first crack in the silence. It allows the wound to breathe. When you tell yourself that your grief is valid, no matter the form it takes, you create space for healing. Another step is to find a safe way to express the grief. For some, this is through words, journaling, writing letters to the person or dream that was lost, speaking with a trusted friend. For others, it is through ritual, lighting a candle, creating a memory box, or performing a private ceremony that acknowledges the loss. For others still, it is through art, painting, music, dance. Grief has no single language. It speaks through whatever form feels most natural to you. But equally important is to recognize the subtle ways unprocessed grief may still be shaping your life. Perhaps you notice that you avoid closeness in relationships because the last time you loved deeply, you lost. Perhaps you find yourself irritable over small things, not realizing that your body is still carrying unresolved sadness. Perhaps you struggle with trusting life's goodness because part of you believes that joy always ends in pain. These patterns are grief's echoes, and until we face them, they quietly dictate our choices. Healing unprocessed grief is not about forgetting. It is not about erasing the memory of what was lost. Instead, it's about integration, finding a way to carry the memory without letting it weigh you down. It's about learning that sorrow and joy can exist side by side, that honoring what you've lost does not mean you can't open yourself to new experiences of love and beauty. Of course, the path is not linear. Some days you may feel peaceful, only to be struck by grief again without warning. A song, a smell, a familiar date on the calendar. This does not mean you failed to heal. It simply means grief is a companion that visits from time to time. What matters is whether those visits control your life or simply remind you of your humanity. There is also an important connection between grief and compassion. When we allow ourselves to truly process our grief, we become more empathetic to others. We recognize suffering in their eyes because we have seen it in our own. This is one of grief's hidden gifts. By facing it rather than burying it, we not only heal ourselves, but also deepen our capacity to love and to walk beside others in their pain. If you find yourself carrying the silent weight of unprocessed grief, I encourage you to take small steps today. Start by acknowledging what you've lost. Say it aloud or write it down. Notice how your body reacts when you speak the truth of your grief, whether it's relief, tears, or even anger. Then, find a way to give that grief expression, even in the smallest ritual. You don't need to solve it all at once. Healing is not about rushing. It is about allowing. And remember, you do not have to do this alone. Grief can feel isolating, but it is a deeply shared human experience. Others have walked this path and survived. Others have found light again, even after profound darkness. There is strength in connection, in community, in reminding each other that we are not the only ones carrying invisible wounds. The silent weight of unprocessed grief can feel unbearable, but it does not have to remain silent forever. With gentleness, patience, and courage, you can begin to transform it into something that no longer controls you, but instead becomes a source of wisdom, empathy, and deeper love. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Together, we can create a space where the invisible wounds of the heart are given voice, where healing is nurtured, and where none of us have to walk this path alone. A community of like-minded people can remind us that grief is part of the human story, and that together we can carry it more lightly.